Formula One's off-season, that period when the roar of engines falls silent, can feel like an eternity for fans. Yet, this downtime often delivers some of the most captivating drama in the sport. Think back to 2022, an electrifying season, then suddenly, Fernando Alonso joined Aston Martin, Oscar Piastri moved to McLaren, Sebastian Vettel announced his retirement, and Nico Hülkenberg made his return. The 2023 season, despite the omnipresent Dutch national anthem, also provided thrilling races, only to be followed by bombshells. Lewis Hamilton's announcement he was moving to Ferrari, Guenther Steiner's surprising dismissal, and Christian Horner facing allegations of sending inappropriate images to a colleague despite being married with 2 children. These are just a fraction of the events that unfold when the cars aren't racing, and there's so much more to uncover. In this video, we'll delve into everything that happens during an F1 off-season, from the intense driver rivalries and car reveals that often look identical to the previous year's models, to moments like Lewis Hamilton's humorous reaction to an onion. Get ready, because the real entertainment often begins with the news right after the final race of the season. As soon as Formula One concludes its final race, a flurry of news and drama typically emerges within weeks or even days. This usually includes team announcements and changes, such as Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc securing contract extensions, or drivers switching teams, like Lewis Hamilton's highly anticipated move to Ferrari, which arguably turned 70% of Mercedes fans into honorary Italians. We also see drivers embark on factory tours, where their facial expressions alone can often hint at the trajectory of their upcoming season. Consider Fernando Alonso in 2023, Max Verstappen in 2022, or Lewis Hamilton for 2025, though for Lewis, it's hard to tell if he's happy or apprehensive, likely a mix of both, given it's Ferrari. Beyond driver transfers, the off-season can deliver significant drama. Remember the tension when Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly became teammates, or Alpine's premature announcement of Oscar Piastri joining them, only for Piastri to famously declare his preference for McLaren. Guenther Steiner's dismissal by Gene Haas, whose reaction spoke volumes, and Daniel Ricciardo's rollercoaster career of being hired, fired, rehired, promoted and fired again, are all testaments to the off-track excitement. But jokes aside, arguably the most profound and genuinely dramatic event in Formula One during an off-season was the aftermath of Abu Dhabi 2021. That chaotic final race led to an off-season that felt like a war zone. Michael Masi received death threats over a safety car decision, ultimately leading to his resignation. Nicholas Latifi, whose crash caused the controversial safety car, received his share of criticism, while Max Verstappen, having clinched the title, was likely celebrating away from the online storm. F1 fans clashed on social media as if it were a digital world war, with Max's supporters celebrating their victory, and Team LH constantly insisting Lewis was an 8-time world champion. As an Alonso fan at the time, I honestly just found myself retreating to a quiet corner. Formula One's off-track drama never fails to deliver. If it's not news of contract signings, it's drivers engaging in heated arguments. In those rare instances when the contract sagas and driver spats don't dominate the headlines, another entertaining aspect of the off-season is discovering what F1 drivers surprisingly get up to when they're not racing. Given that Formula One is essentially a sport where millionaires drive in circles, driving us all wild, these millionaires often engage in quite eccentric activities during their holidays. I've delved into years of F1 off-seasons and compiled some of the most curious facts I've learned about the drivers. For instance, Lance Stroll is apparently an excellent padel player, a more affluent version of tennis. One might wonder if he ever considered a career switch. Lewis Hamilton, despite his usually composed demeanor, loves making the most amusing videos imaginable. Then there's Fernando Alonso, who frequently posts gym photos and was involved in a crash during 2014 McLaren testing, sparking a conspiracy theory that the incident somehow stopped him from aging. Nicholas Latifi, surprisingly, is a fan of Nutella and reportedly served in the British military, where he was once seen in a vehicle faster than any Williams car he ever drove. And finally, Max Verstappen once had to break down a door to rescue his cat, wore Red Bull merchandise during his child's gender reveal, and loves to sim race even when the F1 season is over, often continuing to race for Team Redline. He's incredibly passionate about it, even when virtual cars fly towards his face. But perhaps the most astonishing thing I've witnessed an F1 driver do during the break is Pierre Gasly fixing his hairline, what I'd call the biggest self-inflicted crime I've seen in his career. Throughout his F1 journey, Pierre Gasly has been a formidable competitor, but his hairline, no exaggeration, was receding further back than prime Daniel Ricciardo's overtakes. However, recently, for the 2025 season, Pierre underwent a hairline restoration. As soon as he revealed his new look, I'm certain half of his fan base was in tears. He now looks like he just completed a tour of duty in the US Marine Corps. While Pierre will undoubtedly look fine eventually, I can't help but think he resembles someone who just finished serving a sentence for an incident involving Esteban Ocon. Beyond driver activities, the off-season also marks the launch of new F1 car liveries and team kit designs. This is an exciting part of the break, especially if your team gets the styling right. Let's first talk about F1 team kits, also known as merchandise. They've always been a mixed bag. Sometimes they make you look like you work at a petrol station, or they simply look identical to the previous year's designs. But specifically for 2025, I can confidently say that almost every F1 team's merchandise lineup is an absolute disaster. And I wish I were exaggerating. Here's a quick rundown of F1's 2025 merch. Ferrari's looks acceptable, aside from the prominent HP logo staring you down. Mercedes gear makes you look like you're from Russia wearing fake Adidas. McLaren's offering an €85 shirt. Am I buying clothing or being robbed in broad daylight? And Red Bull, who on earth designed this PowerPoint-esque monstrosity? I swear these are some of the most mediocre, if not the worst, F1 designs I've ever seen. I'd rather wear bootleg shirts, as those often look far more impressive. Now, let's discuss the car reveals. Typically, with every new F1 season, teams unveil their cars around the off-season, often starting on February 14th. This has provided F1 fans with a perfect excuse to celebrate Valentine's Day with a new Ferrari, rather than engaging with the opposite gender. However, for 2025, instead of each team revealing their cars on separate days, Formula One decided to host a grand event for its 75th anniversary, where every team would reveal their cars simultaneously. And boy, was this F1 75 event a complete roller coaster. I'd personally rate this event a solid 7 out of 10. It started brilliantly, with everyone, especially Lewis, being playfully grilled by the host. Lewis, at the Ferrari table tonight, pray for Toto, always the center of attention, whether he's careering around the track or peacocking through the paddock dressed like a Fortnite character. Lewis Hamilton, final question. Is there genuinely a guy called Mike Crack? Yes, I think I saw Tiger King's Joe Exotic sat at one of the tables. That's so exciting. That looks insanely good. Mike Crack is tingling right now. I also loved how clear it was that Max and Alonso had no desire to be there at all. I was genuinely surprised Max didn't call in sick, so someone please check if Max's sim racing setup was being held hostage during the show. But since it's still an F1 event, there had to be a sprinkle of awkwardness, and the car reveals delivered exactly that. Especially with Red Bull, their reveal featured so many backup dancers it looked like Max and Liam were surrounded by overly energetic performers, possessed by the spirit of uncontrollable movement. Aston Martin, on the other hand, presented a James Bond-style intro, pure class. Fortunately, the only 007 they embodied in the past 2 seasons was 0 pace, 0 championships, and 7 times Stroll kissed the barriers. Meanwhile, McLaren, Mercedes, and Williams practically looked identical. The Alpine reveal was great though. However, VCARB by far had the best reveal, while Sauber's was the worst, featuring the longest intro just to showcase a car resembling a cucumber and a cabbage-haired Mattia Binotto. My favorite part of the show, however, was the FIA getting booed by everyone, and the fact that Pirelli received more applause after the FIA has been instrumental in their efforts over the last 75 years. And of course, none of these incredible cars would even hit the track without the right tires. Pirelli has been a crucial part of our sport. Can you believe it, ladies and gentlemen? Tires received more cheers than the governing body of motorsports. So, overall, this event gets a 7 out of 10. The shows were over the top, like typical American events, but it still retained the F1 spirit. Now we can head to the final part of an F1 off-season, but before that, I actually want to cover what I consider one of the most legendary things to happen in the history of F1 off-seasons, the Twitch Quartet. This refers to a golden era in F1, specifically 2020. With everyone in lockdown and the F1 season not starting until July, drivers took to Twitch to livestream for fun. And when I say it was legendary, I mean it. We had Charles Leclerc recreating his Baku 2019 crash. Does that remind you some parts of this year? Leclerc has gone straight on. Then he wore a banana suit and humorously declared he was going to do something to a camera. "I'm coming on your camera, mate." Yo, what? While George Russell and Alex Albon constantly strolled each other in games. Get it, George. Lando Norris went bald, and Max Verstappen offered the best advice anyone could hope to learn if they're behind the wheel of a racing car. Right, so don't break turn 1. Okay, basically, take everyone out. Then I will do 1 lap in reverse. All right, they're on. I would just fully send it into the pit. Finally, it's time to talk about the last, and arguably most important, part of the off-season. F1 testing, which is why I now present to you F1 preseason testing, explained by an idiot. Preseason testing is precisely what it sounds like. It's the final opportunity before an F1 season begins for drivers to test their brand new cars over several days, gathering crucial data. But it's also the part of the F1 season where every F1 fan reaches the peak of their delusions, except for Ferrari fans, who operate on that level year-round. The reason for this widespread delusion is that each team is simply running tests, which means different setups for every driver, varying track conditions, and the possibility of sandbagging, where teams intentionally hide their car's true speed to avoid drawing attention. Therefore, there's no truly accurate data to represent how teams genuinely compare to each other. Yet, people continue to believe their team is fast the moment one of their drivers sets a single fastest lap. Honestly, I don't even blame them at this point. Many of us F1 fans have endured so much pain that sometimes delusion is the only solution. But some take it to an extreme, as evidenced by these incredible theories F1 fans cooked up just in 2025. Charles Leclerc spun in the exact same way as Max and Lewis in testing, hence he will be champion. Carlos Sainz set a fastest lap in testing, hence he could also be champion. Lewis Hamilton has a large rear section, hence more downforce, hence he will be champion. And finally, parts of the Haas car fell off in testing, which equals weight saving, which equals 2 champions. As much as these theories might give me a headache, I can't criticize them just yet, because perhaps one of them will turn out to be true. Aside from my concerns over F1 delusions, to wrap up this video, I want to shed light on another significant issue I have with Formula 1. What is with F1 events always featuring the most unconventional performances? I thought this was primarily a problem in the US, but at F1 75, we had Brian Tyler have a chaotic episode on a DJ mixer for 8 minutes to reveal Alpine's car, while Sauber spent 15 minutes hitting drums to present a car slower than a rolling pickle. So, F1 teams, next time, please let your drivers do more of the explaining instead of paying people to act like overly energetic performers on stage.